Well, welcome back, caregivers. This is Valerie B., your host of the Empowered Caregiver podcast. And in our last episode, I shared part of my caregiving story with you. And if you are interested in more of my story, then I published a book called My Caregiver Story. I almost gave up, and it is on Amazon. And in that book, you will find some journal prompts because during the time I was caring for my dad, I needed a way to get my thoughts out, and I put them on paper. So I have some of my journal prompts there. I have more about my story, so many things about my story that you will find very interesting, especially with caring for someone with Alzheimer's and dementia. And then I also have some practical and vital tools there for caregivers. So if that's something that you're interested in, please head on over to Amazon. Well, just as a reminder, this is a space where caregivers can stop just surviving and start thriving again, where caregivers can start feeling seen and visible, where they can feel supported and strengthened and acknowledged. If you're caring for a loved one, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, a spouse, a sibling, an uncle, or an aunt, or someone else, while you're managing your personal life, stick around for a bit. Today, I am going to discuss something that many caregivers may not recognize or even really want to talk about until they're deep in it, and that is caregiver burnout. We verbalize it and we say, well, it is what it is. I have to do what I have to do. And if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? I really can't do anything about it. That's how we verbalize it. But I didn't recognize burnout early enough to catch it before it took a toll on my health. I already had lupus when I began caring for my dad. So one trigger for lupus flare-ups is stress. And I felt the stress. But all I said was, well, I'll just keep trying to take care of myself, but what can I do? So if you feel guilty for needing to rest, if you feel guilty for needing to just take a break, if exhaustion just feels like it's normal, I want to speak to you. Burnout doesn't just come from one hard day. It comes from thousands of small moments where you just stop choosing you. And whether you believe it or not, you can't fix burnout with one weekend off. I mean, it's helpful, but it's not a fix. And if that's all that you have right now, wonderful. Take advantage of it. Let it benefit you. But today, we're going to call out burnout. We're going to tell you what burnout really is. Have you ever had those thoughts and said out loud, I really don't know how much longer I can do this? I do. And I said it. Burnout is a deep emotional exhaustion, and it feels like literally it's settling in your bones. It feels like your soul is tired. Yes, your soul. I mean, that inner self, where your emotions sit, the who of you as a person and not the what. Because when you are soul tired, when your soul is tired, you're not just sleepy and tired, you're weary. You're so weary that it feels like burnout is living under the surface of your being. So, let's talk about it. It's time to just pause. And if you need permission to pause, give yourself permission. Because the only way that we're going to be able to address burnout is that you can do it by being honest. So we're going to start by naming burnout honestly. Well, what does burnout really even sound like? Well, it sounds like I can handle it. I'm just too tired to care. It's just a busy time for me right now. I mean, you can feel irritated over minor things when you're in burnout. You cry unexpectedly, you go to bed exhausted, you wake up exhausted. It can feel like an on and off switch that is constantly on. I remember as a child, my parents would always tell us when we leave a room to turn the light switch off. But when you're a caregiver, that switch is always on. Burnout is what happens when you have prolonged stress, and that prolonged stress meets with prolonged self-neglect. And caregivers especially are susceptible because they still handle appointments. They still have to manage medications. They still watch and have to observe the behaviors of their loved ones. And if you're caring for a person with Alzheimer's or dementia, you're not just watching their behavior. You're watching to see if they're going to be violent, if they're going to wander and walk out the house and walk down the street and can't be found. You have to watch them and make sure that they're not going to do things to harm themselves and others. The work you do as a caregiver is emotional, and the responsibility feels endless. The breaks are so few. I mean, I had a few breaks when I was caregiving, but sometimes those breaks were very few. I may have only had a 5-minute break. I would go out in the backyard, pace back and forth, meditate, talk to myself. Sometimes I had a little longer breaks where I asked my brother to come over and sit with my dad so I could just get a break. And I went to the park and sat in the car and just tried to just get it out. And then it was so hard. I couldn't believe how hard it was to find an agency that could provide me with a really good caregiver. Most of the caregivers were babysitters. They wouldn't be able to help my dad if he became anxious or irritable. So for me, the breaks were short. The breaks were few. But remember, you won't be able to heal burnout if you minimize it. So let's talk about some specific signs of burnout. The first one is constant irritability. And that irritability means that you snap faster than usual. And then you feel guilty about it. You feel annoyed with small things. And believe it or not, even the person that you're caring for may feel overwhelming. And that's how it is. It's not because you're unloving. It's because you're just irritable. It's because your nervous system is overloaded. And what can you do about it? Pause before you respond. If you're feeling irritable, just take a pause. And then ask yourself, am I tired? Am I angry? Am I annoyed by something? What is that? Name it. Another sign is emotional numbness. And this one surprises people because you basically just don't feel anything. You stop crying, you stop responding, you stop reacting. It's not peace. You still function, but it's like you don't have the same joy that you had in the past. And it's really an emotional shutdown. And what can you do when you're emotionally numb? Try this. Try to schedule a 15-minute activity that is not related to caregiving. It could be doing a puzzle. It could be listening to music. It could be watching your favorite show. And start reclaiming a small piece of yourself. The next sign is resentment. Even if you don't want to admit it, it is resentment. And sometimes resentment is paired with guilt. And you may think or even say, well, no one is helping me. Why is all this on me? I did not sign up for this. This is too much. And then right away, you say, I shouldn't feel this way. Resentment is a signal. It's not a character flaw. And what you can do is you can name how you're feeling without judgment. And then ask yourself, what support do I need? What support am I missing? The next sign is sleep problems. You're exhausted. You're tired all day. You're wired at night. And then as soon as you wake up, all you're thinking about are the caregiving tasks that are ahead of you. And if you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, you're wondering, what is today going to hold? How is he going to react today? How is she going to respond today? Your body never fully gets relaxed. So what I want you to try is a 20-minute wind down. So 20 minutes before it's time to go to bed, try to just wind down. Just try to be calm. Don't talk about caregiving. Don't think about what you have to do on tomorrow, but just try to wind down. And I know that's difficult for some people because your loved one is not on a sleep schedule. But when you can wind down, wind down. Next are health changes. You may start having headaches or stomach issues. Your immune system is lower because you start to get frequent colds. You have high blood pressure. And remember that chronic stress shows up physically. It shows up in your body. And remember, if you see anything that is abnormal, and if you're having any health changes that are significant, go and see a physician. Another sign is withdrawal. Wow, do I know this one well? You stop answering phone calls. You cancel plans. You feel like no one understands you anyway. You don't want to be bothered with anyone. And you accept that you're going to have to do this alone and that you're going to have little support. And then you just completely withdraw. If they come visit, okay. If they don't, no problem. Doesn't matter. But isolation deepens burnout. And then another sign, and the last sign I'm going to give you today, is you're feeling like you're a failure and you lose your identity. And this sign is the emotional core of burnout. You can't remember the last time that someone asked how you're doing. And then you start thinking about and saying, well, I should be doing more. Am I patient enough with it? I'm really not cut out for this. Burnout will distort your perception. And it makes strong people believe that they're weak. And you're not weak. You're very strong. So what I want you to do is to reintroduce yourself to yourself. Because this sign means that you're losing your identity. So reintroduce yourself to yourself. Remind yourself of who you are and who you were before you were caregiving. And then think about 3 things that you enjoy doing outside of caregiving. It's some small identity restoring is what it is. So these are some of the signs of burnout. So please be aware of them. And please take some of those actions that I mentioned. And please ask yourself some of those questions and be honest. Because honesty is the best way to attack burnout. So thank you for being here. And if this episode has resonated with you on burnout, please make sure that you subscribe and you share it to another caregiver who needs some encouragement. And we're not finished with burnout, because in our next episode, I am going to continue our discussion about burnout. However, I'm going to go another step further, and I'm going to talk about how to address burnout before you have another meltdown or a meltdown. And remember, be honest about burnout. Be honest. If you're burnt out or if you're going towards burnout and you know it, be honest about it. Take care of you, because no one's going to take care of you the way you can. No one knows your needs better than you. And then reintroduce yourself to yourself so that you don't lose your identity. So this is the Empowered Caregiver. And until next time, please be well.